Lyra had always been drawn to the bustling energy of spaceports. Starships from dozens of worlds came and went, leaving trails of blue and orange exhaust in the sky above the trade hub. Alien voices mixed with mechanical hums, and the aroma of spices and strange fuels filled the air. To her, it was beautiful chaos. She moved among the crowds, noting how each species had its rhythm, its peculiar habits. Humans were part of the mix, though they were far less remarkable in appearance than some of the towering or many-limbed species she dealt with. Yet there was something about their quiet presence that intrigued her. At the heart of the market district, she found herself near a small, modest store tucked between two grander alien businesses. The sign simply read, "Ethan's Trade Goods." Lyra noticed the man behind the counter immediately. He did not stand out in the usual way. He was human, average in height and build, with brown hair and calm brown eyes. But there was a stillness about him that drew attention in a crowd. While the market swirled around him in chaos, he moved with a measured grace, every gesture precise, every glance observing yet non-intrusive. Lyra had met many humans in her travels. Some were boisterous, some ambitious, some aggressive. Ethan was none of those. He did not try to impress, did not raise his voice, did not attempt to charm anyone. He simply existed quietly, calmly, as though the world around him barely made a ripple in his mind. She found it strangely magnetic. She stepped closer, curious, pretending to browse. "Do you have any Terran spice blends?" she asked. Ethan looked up, his expression neutral but polite. "Yes, I have the common blends and a few rare imports. Which are you looking for?" She noticed how his fingers moved with subtle precision, how his eyes scanned for errors no one else would catch. It was as if he had a mental map of every item in his store, every possibility that could go wrong, and every solution ready. "I'll take these," she said, placing the items on the counter. Ethan began calculating the total, his fingers moving fast, yet not hurriedly, his movements smooth and exact. "That will be 67 credits and 12 units," he said calmly. She handed over the credits, and he completed the transaction with the same quiet efficiency. Lyra felt a small thrill. There was a competence here that went beyond simple trade. She didn't know why, but she felt she was seeing the tip of an iceberg. Before she could ask more questions, a loud alarm rang from the docking area. Screams and shouts followed. Aliens ran in all directions, and the market erupted into panic. Lyra's eyes widened. Raiders had targeted a nearby cargo ship. The small security force attempted to respond, but they were outnumbered and clearly unprepared. Lyra froze for a moment, unsure what to do. She had seen violence before, but rarely up close. Then she noticed Ethan moving through the chaos. Calmly, without drawing attention, he began directing people away from danger. "This way, stay low." "Move toward the exits," he called, his voice firm yet steady. Aliens listened, surprised by the clarity and authority in his tone. Then came the remarkable part. As the raiders advanced, they moved with precision, aiming to capture the cargo. Security officers hesitated, unsure how to respond. Ethan, without hesitation, grabbed a nearby energy control panel, rerouted power to create temporary barriers, and jammed the raiders' movement. He anticipated their actions, stepping just ahead of them, nudging a fallen crate to trip an approaching assailant, signaling for a small group of workers to push a control console into the path of another. Every action he took was simple, yet perfectly timed. Lyra watched in disbelief. The humans she had met were clever, yes, but this was beyond clever. There was a calm, almost invisible strategy at play, a mind that saw outcomes several steps ahead. The raiders stumbled, frustrated, and eventually retreated, leaving behind confused and slightly battered cargo. Not a single civilian was harmed. When it was over, Ethan returned to his store as if nothing had happened. Lyra followed, heart racing. "That was incredible," she said softly, her eyes wide. "How did you?" He simply stated the fact, matter-of-factly. She had no way of knowing the truth, that Ethan had once led humanity's elite fleet in secret wars, fighting conflicts the galaxy never even knew existed. To him, helping others was not heroism, it was ordinary. I don't think I've ever seen a human move like that," she admitted, carefully choosing her words. You handled everything perfectly." There was a mystery here, something beyond simple trade skills, beyond the calm demeanor of a quiet man. Something that hinted at vast capability, hidden in plain sight. The following days, Lyra found herself returning to Ethan's store again and again. She would casually browse goods, ask questions, and always notice the way he observed the world. He seemed to understand things instinctively, from the trajectory of a falling crate to the hesitation in an alien's voice during negotiations. He solved problems before they became apparent. One evening, as the market dimmed and the neon lights flickered to life, an alien trader from a neighboring district approached. He challenged Ethan openly, questioning the human's competence in handling complex trade agreements. The trader was larger with armored scales and sharp claws, clearly trying to intimidate the quiet human. Ethan did not flinch. He listened carefully, asked questions, and responded with subtle logic that exposed flaws in the alien's assumptions. He never raised his voice. He never made threats. Yet by the end of their exchange, the alien trader conceded, visibly impressed, and left without further conflict. Lyra, who had been watching from a distance, felt a growing awe. Here was a human who did not need to dominate with force, who did not shout or show off, and yet every action carried precision and authority that demanded respect. He could have been anyone, just a quiet trader, but she began to suspect he was far more than he appeared. The quiet of his store, the simplicity of his demeanor, and the hidden depth of his actions created an enigma she could not resist. She tried to ask him about his past, about where he had learned to anticipate outcomes so well. But he evaded the questions lightly, diverting attention to the spices on the shelf, the quality of a container, or the efficiency of an inventory list. In the evenings, when the market quieted and most of the shoppers returned to their ships or quarters, Lyra would sit at a small bench near Ethan's store. She watched him clean, organize, and prepare for the next day. Every movement was deliberate. Every glance scanned for problems before they could happen. There was a rhythm, almost meditative, yet powerful, and she felt that beneath this calm, the world could bend according to his understanding. One night, as the hub experienced a minor power fluctuation, several ships were delayed, and tensions among traders rose. Aliens argued over docking schedules, while some humans muttered about delays. Without fanfare, Ethan walked through the crowd, speaking softly, guiding traders to available docking bays, calming disputes, and directing crews efficiently. In less than 10 minutes, what could have escalated into chaos was resolved. Lyra could not contain her amazement. "He just fixes things," she whispered to herself, without anyone realizing the danger or the skill behind it. As she walked back to her quarters that night, carrying her small purchases, Lyra realized that she had met a man whose life had been shaped by challenges she could not even imagine. The quiet human, the one she had casually married weeks ago, had lived a life of hidden legend, moving through the galaxy unseen and unrecognized, performing feats that could have altered wars. And she had no idea. Yet the thought both thrilled and terrified her. There was safety in calm, there was trust in quiet competence, but there was also a power that could not be contained or predicted. And Lyra knew that soon, circumstances would test that power, even if she could not yet see how. For now, though, she watched from the shadows, learning to understand the rhythm of her quiet human. And as she did, a small, growing realization took root in her mind. The galaxy underestimated humans at its own peril. Ethan moved through life as he always had, quiet, observant, unassuming. But in the heart of the trade hub, in the chaos of alien civilizations, he left traces of something extraordinary. And whether the galaxy knew it or not, the legend of the quiet human had only begun. The stars above the hub shimmered with distant light. Somewhere far away, fleets would soon move, threats would appear, and challenges would come. Lyra did not yet know that the quiet man beside her could face them all and win without ever raising his voice. But she would learn in time. And when that time came, the galaxy would discover what she had already started to suspect. Humans were not ordinary. They were something else entirely. The market hub had returned to its usual rhythm after the minor skirmish at the docking bay, but Lyra could not shake the image of Ethan moving through chaos as if he had rehearsed it 1,000 times. She wandered through the crowd, her mind restless, noticing how the alien traders glanced at the human with a new awareness. Whispers had begun to spread. Someone mentioned how efficiently he had directed fleeing workers, how he had calculated barriers that stopped raiders, and how not a single civilian had been harmed. The rumors were subtle at first. Small comments in the marketplace, a nod of approval here, a raised eyebrow there. Lyra noticed that even among the alien traders who usually looked down on humans for their perceived simplicity, there was a ripple of respect and a touch of fear. Some were intrigued, some suspicious, and a few, she suspected, were quietly worried. They had underestimated humans before, and this one human had reminded them of a lesson they were only beginning to understand. Lyra returned to Ethan's store, carrying a small basket of spices and thinking over the events of the past week. Ethan was arranging his shelves, his movements calm and precise as always. He noticed her before she spoke. "You seem thoughtful today," he said quietly, placing a row of rare import spices in exact alignment. Lyra smiled faintly, trying to keep her curiosity in check. "I'm thinking about the market, about what happened last week." She hesitated. "And about you." "You think I'm more remarkable than I seem," he said simply. Lyra blinked. "I may be, but it's not just that. You handled everything so easily. It's like you could see the outcome before it happened. How do you do that?" People often underestimate what they can do when they focus on small details. Two alien houses, both powerful and proud, had a misunderstanding over a shipment of rare ores. Normally, such disputes escalated quickly, requiring several mediators and security teams to prevent violence. Lyra had been invited to observe, curious how the situation would unfold. Ethan, of course, accompanied her, though he did not announce any intention of intervening. He moved through the corridors as always, quietly noting details. He observed the body language of each alien, the way their voices rose and fell, the subtle shifts in posture that revealed tension and hidden intentions. The dispute began as expected. Voices raised, accusations flew, and for a moment it seemed the room would erupt into chaos. Security officers glanced at each other nervously, unsure who would act first. Then Ethan spoke softly. "Consider the timing of the shipment," he said, almost as if musing aloud. "House Vorton believes it arrived late, but the data logs indicate it was on schedule, yet their frustration seems to stem from another matter entirely." His voice was quiet, almost polite, but it carried weight. He had stated a fact, but in a way that drew attention to overlooked details. The alien envoys paused, listening. Ethan continued, calmly breaking down the sequence of events, predicting objections before they were raised, offering solutions that seemed obvious only after he mentioned them. Within minutes, the tension eased. What could have become a prolonged standoff ended with both houses nodding in cautious agreement, their pride intact. Lyra watched in amazement. She had thought she understood diplomacy, had learned the basics during her training as an envoy, but Ethan's approach went beyond skill. It was intuition, experience, and foresight, combined in a way she had never seen. Word of the incident spread quietly through the hub. Traders and diplomats whispered about the human who could resolve conflicts before they escalated. Some admired him. Others were unsettled. A few skeptics even tried to provoke him in minor ways, challenging his understanding or presenting false data to see how he would react. Ethan handled each with calm precision, exposing errors without confrontation, correcting mistakes without embarrassment, and leaving onlookers unsure whether he had predicted everything or simply acted with extraordinary skill. Lyra felt a mixture of pride and astonishment. She had married a quiet man who seemed ordinary on the surface, and yet she was slowly realizing he was anything but. There was power here, hidden in plain sight, and she was one of the few who noticed it. A week later, the hub received troubling news. A group of rogue mercenaries, known for attacking trading stations and looting cargo, had been spotted moving toward the sector. Other humans in the hub were wary, but Ethan seemed unfazed. Lyra approached him, concern in her eyes. "They're dangerous," she said softly. "They've destroyed entire stations before. We should alert the authorities, prepare security." "Fear, confusion. I do not plan to give them that advantage." His eyes remained calm, steady. "We will be ready. Both the enemy and the civilians." Panic slowed, confusion diminished, and the hub's residents began acting efficiently, almost instinctively following his lead. Lyra watched from a vantage point, heart pounding. The quiet human she had married was orchestrating a defense without raising his voice, without weapons, without apparent force. And yet he was turning chaos into order, guiding dozens of different species with skill she had never imagined possible. The mercenaries arrived, expecting an easy target, and were surprised to find a hub that moved like a single organism. Traps were set, escape routes blocked strategically, and civilians were evacuated efficiently. They tried to advance, but Ethan's instructions anticipated every move. Crates fell at just the right place to block corridors, energy shutters redirected hallways, and small teams of humans and aliens worked seamlessly under his guidance. The confrontation was brief. The mercenaries, frustrated and confused, retreated. They had underestimated humans, and they had underestimated Ethan. Afterward, the hub was quiet again. Traders and diplomats whispered their amazement. Some came to Lyra curious. "Who is he?" they asked. "How did a single human organize the hub so perfectly?" He returned to his store, cleaned a few shelves, and continued business as usual, as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. That night, Lyra sat with him, finally daring to speak. "Do you realize what you just did today? You saved the hub." "No, you organized it. You predicted their moves, directed everyone, and they followed you without question. You didn't just help, you led. You did something no one expected. That is all humans have ever needed to survive." Alien traders shared tales of the human who could resolve conflicts, anticipate threats, and organize large groups under pressure. Some claimed he was more than a trader. He was a strategist, a tactician, perhaps even a warrior in disguise. The whispers reached corners of the galaxy where humans were rarely seen as serious players. Lyra understood now that Ethan's quiet presence was more than comfort, it was power. The galaxy might not yet know it, but humans were starting to leave a mark in places no one had expected. And Ethan was proof of what humanity could accomplish when it was underestimated. That evening, as the stars shimmered above the hub, Lyra walked with him to his modest quarters. She felt a mixture of awe and curiosity. "You hide so much," she said softly. "I can see glimpses, but the full picture, I can't imagine it." "That works in our favor." But for now, the hub slept. Traders counted profits, aliens whispered about what they had seen, and Ethan remained quietly at his desk, his mind calm, his plans careful, his presence unassuming. And Lyra could not help but think. The human she married was no ordinary man. He was something far greater. The stars above the hub glimmered with distant possibilities. Somewhere out there, fleets moved, threats lurked, and wars whispered across space. And the quiet human she had wed would meet them all, not with noise or show, but with thought, skill, and the hidden power of humanity. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The hum of the hub never truly stopped. Even late at night, lights flickered in distant corridors, the occasional cargo drone whirred by, and the soft echo of alien voices drifted through the markets. Lyra walked beside Ethan, her mind restless. She had watched him for weeks, seen him act with a precision and foresight that defied ordinary understanding. But now, whispers of his past were beginning to reach her ears, not from him, but from others. It started with subtle comments. Traders muttered about a human who had led fleets in conflicts that no one remembered. Diplomats hinted at a strategist who had outsmarted entire armies before disappearing into anonymity. Lyra, who had trusted only her own observations, felt a growing curiosity. She needed to know the truth. That evening she approached him in the quiet of his store. "Ethan, I've been hearing things," she said cautiously. "Stories about humans who did amazing things, and people mention you. These stories are specific, about strategies, leadership, intelligence. Things only someone extraordinary could do," she hesitated. "Were you involved?" "Sometimes they require individuals to act where the rest cannot. It needs results. People often judge by fame, not ability. I learned that early. Quiet action achieves more than noise." She felt a thrill of awe and a twinge of fear. Before she could ask more, the hub shuddered with an alarm. Lights flickered. A distant explosion shook the walls. Traders and civilians froze, then ran in every direction. Ethan immediately moved, his eyes scanning the crowd, his mind calculating. "They're here," he said quietly. "The mercenaries. Closer than we thought. Use barriers wisely. Lead by example." His voice was quiet but confident. Humans and aliens alike instinctively obeyed, drawn by his calm authority. Within moments, chaos was organized into order. Civilians moved efficiently, doors were sealed strategically, and temporary barricades blocked likely attack routes. Lyra noticed how he communicated without shouting, without commands that demanded fear. He did not need force, his presence alone directed action. This was more than strategy, it was leadership born from experience that spanned far beyond what she could imagine. The mercenaries advanced, expecting panic. They found coordination. They expected confusion. They found precision. Ethan anticipated their every move, predicting weak points, rerouting obstacles, and guiding volunteers into positions that neutralized threats before they could act. Lyra felt her heart pound as she watched him. It was no longer a simple test of skill. This was a demonstration of humanity's potential. One man had orchestrated dozens of aliens and humans alike, turning a vulnerable hub into a fortress of order. During the fight, an alien captain challenged Ethan directly, attempting to intimidate him and seize control of the human's strategy. Ethan responded not with aggression, but with calm observation. He spoke to the captain, asking simple questions about assumptions, logistics, and movement. By the end of the exchange, the captain was left frustrated and impressed, realizing that the quiet human could see outcomes and risks that even seasoned warriors overlooked. The battle was over almost as quickly as it began. The mercenaries, faced with unexpected resistance and confusion in their ranks, withdrew. They had underestimated humans, and the quiet one among them who seemed unremarkable yet had orchestrated the defense flawlessly. When the hub settled, Lyra approached Ethan. "That was incredible. You weren't just helping. You planned, you predicted, you were everywhere at once. You were a strategist, a tactician, a commander. You were a legend hiding in plain sight." Diplomats shared tales of his subtle intelligence. Some viewed him with suspicion, wondering if humanity held hidden strength they had not yet recognized. Others began to quietly respect humans more, realizing that the species' unassuming nature masked extraordinary capability. Lyra spent the evening with him, reflecting on what she had learned. "You've done more than anyone knows," she said. "And yet you hide it. Why?" The quiet human she had married had lived a life shaped by extraordinary challenges, and yet he moved through ordinary spaces as if nothing remarkable had happened. She understood now that humans were more powerful than most species realized, not through brute force alone, but through creativity, strategy, and an ability to adapt in ways that others could not anticipate. For the first time, Lyra began to see the galaxy differently. Humans were underestimated, and that made them formidable, and her husband was living proof. The next morning, news arrived that other trade hubs in nearby sectors had received warnings of mercenary activity. Many feared attacks, but the message carried an unusual note. One human had repelled the threat at the hub. Observers mentioned efficiency, precision, and leadership without apparent force. The story spread quickly, and the whispers grew into questions. Could humans be more than traders and workers? Could one human, quietly acting, change outcomes on a scale the galaxy had never imagined? Lyra noticed how people approached Ethan subtly. Some asked questions under the guise of curiosity, others attempted to challenge him or test his knowledge. Each time he responded with calm clarity, revealing errors in their assumptions without confrontation. Aliens left with respect or confusion, or a mix of both. Humans, observing him, felt inspired and guided, though few fully understood why. As the day ended, Lyra realized she had learned an important truth. The quiet human she had married was a master of observation, prediction, and leadership. He had faced threats that would have overwhelmed most, and yet he moved through life without arrogance, without fear, without need for recognition. And yet she also realized something else. Larger challenges would come. The galaxy was vast and threats were not finished. Mercenaries were only the beginning. Powerful factions would eventually learn of humanity's hidden strength, and when they did, there would be consequences. But for now, Ethan was calm. He prepared for the next day with quiet diligence, arranging supplies, reviewing plans, and observing the hub with careful attention. Lyra could not help but admire him, both for his skill and his humility. She felt pride in being close to him, and awe at the realization that she had married someone who could outthink entire fleets without anyone ever noticing. She understood, more clearly than ever, that humans were underestimated because they concealed their true potential behind calm exteriors. Ethan was the living embodiment of that principle. That night, Lyra lay awake, thinking of what she had witnessed. She thought of fleets of mercenaries of distant planets and civilizations, and she thought of her husband, quietly organizing, leading, and surviving in ways most could not imagine. The galaxy, she realized, had never truly known humanity. And the quiet human she had wed was only the beginning of what it would soon discover. As the stars shone over the hub, she whispered to herself, "The galaxy has no idea what is coming, and neither did I." He simply prepared, as humans always did, for challenges no one else could fully predict. And in that quiet, ordinary moment, Lyra understood something extraordinary. Humanity was ready. Even when the galaxy was not. The news came early in the morning. A massive fleet, far larger than any Ethan had faced recently, was approaching the hub. Reports described hundreds of ships moving in formation, mercenary forces, and a few rogue warbands seeking to dominate trade in the region. Panic spread quickly among traders and alien delegates. Many feared the hub would fall without a fight. Lyra rushed to Ethan's side, heart pounding. It's huge. They'll destroy everything." "What do we do?" Humans are capable, and the hub's residents will follow guidance. We will turn their strength into ours. Each instruction carried weight, even when delivered as a suggestion. Lyra followed, watching as people responded instinctively to him. Some had never taken orders from a human before, yet his guidance was logical, predictive, and persuasive. By mid-morning, the hub was a carefully coordinated network, not just of people, but of systems. Power grids, docking bays, barricades, and emergency protocols were all connected. The approaching fleet was visible in the distance now, dark silhouettes against the stars. They assumed chaos would greet them, but they were wrong. They expected fear, confusion, and hesitation. They would find order, strategy, and preparation at every step. Ethan walked to the central control hub, analyzing enemy movement and plotting defensive maneuvers. He anticipated the attackers' tactics, diversionary attacks, shock landings, and attempts to sow panic. He positioned humans and alien allies strategically, using every available resource. Nothing was wasted. Every energy shield, every barricade, every shuttle route had purpose. Lyra could hardly keep up. She had seen planning before, had witnessed small battles and skirmishes, but this scale was unlike anything she imagined. Ethan, quietly and without pride, managed it all. He adjusted plans in real time, predicting mercenary moves before they occurred. When the first wave of attackers arrived, they were met with calm precision. Laser fire was minimal but effective. Barricades moved in sync with shuttle routes. Civilians were safely evacuated. Every attack that the mercenaries attempted was countered, neutralized, or redirected. Lyra watched as Ethan moved through the command center, issuing guidance with soft words, pointing out flaws in enemy strategy, and adjusting defenses seamlessly. It was almost impossible to believe that one human could manage such complexity. Yet the results were clear. The hub remained intact. Not a single civilian was lost. Not a single major structure fell. The mercenaries grew frustrated. Their commanders shouted orders, but each attack failed, each tactic countered by unseen hands. They could not predict the human who seemed always one step ahead. Some began to recognize him. Small whispers spread. The quiet human, the strategist, the hidden mind controlling the defense. Lyra stayed close, her heart pounding as she realized how extraordinary this all was. Her husband, whom she had married for his quiet, calm, and gentle presence, was now orchestrating a full-scale defense against overwhelming odds. And the galaxy, it seemed, would finally see humanity in a new light. Hours passed. Waves of attackers came and went, yet the hub held. Civilians and traders moved with confidence, guided by Ethan's subtle instructions. Aliens, initially skeptical, now followed his lead, adapting to his strategies without hesitation. By late afternoon, the attackers realized they were fighting not just a hub, but a living network of coordination, intelligence, and human ingenuity. Lyra finally had a moment alone with him. "Ethan, this is incredible. You're controlling all of this. How?" Humans have survived through intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to act calmly when others panic. This is no different. We apply the same principles on a larger scale. And we are underestimated too often. Word would spread quickly. A human had outsmarted fleets, protected a hub, and maintained order when no one else could. Lyra finally allowed herself to feel pride in a way she had never felt before. She had married a man who was quiet, humble, and unassuming, yet capable of feats most species could not imagine. She realized that humans had long been underestimated, and that her husband exemplified humanity's hidden potential: intelligence, courage, and the ability to act decisively when it mattered most. As the hub began repairs and cleanup, Ethan moved among the residents quietly, offering advice, organizing relief, and ensuring that every step was efficient. Lyra observed him, heart full, realizing that this calm, quiet man had just rewritten the way the galaxy would see humans. Later, in private, she asked, "Do you ever stop being amazing? How do you remain so calm?" Thought achieves results. Lyra sat beside Ethan, thinking of everything she had witnessed. She had married a quiet human who was, in truth, a living legend. A strategist who could lead, a tactician who could outthink enemies, a hero who never sought recognition. The stars above twinkled in silent acknowledgement. Somewhere out there, fleets would move, threats would arise, and civilizations would challenge humanity again. And the quiet human she had wed would be ready, calm, precise, and extraordinary. Lyra whispered softly, almost to herself, "The galaxy has no idea what humans are capable of, and neither did I until now." She realized something profound. The galaxy had always underestimated humans, and it had made a mistake. The quiet human beside her had proven it, and in that calm, extraordinary moment, she understood the full truth. Humanity would survive, adapt, and excel even when the rest of the galaxy doubted it. And Ethan, the quiet human, was the proof. The hub was quiet but not silent. Traders checked their inventories, aliens repaired damaged stalls, and humans ensured that every civilian had food and water. The sun, or what passed for sunlight in the artificial orbit of the station, cast long reflections across the polished walkways. Everything appeared calm, orderly, almost peaceful, but beneath the surface, Lyra could feel the shift. The galaxy had noticed something new. Humans were not ordinary, and one human in particular had changed perceptions forever. Lyra walked beside Ethan, observing the calm precision with which he moved. He helped a small group of aliens carry supplies to a damaged section of the station, then quietly checked on a human family whose quarters had been disrupted during the attack. Every action was deliberate, every gesture purposeful. And yet to anyone who did not know, he looked like a simple trader managing his shop, nothing more. "You never change, do you?" Lyra asked softly. Ethan smiled faintly. "Change is necessary where needed. Otherwise, calm and consistency are better for everyone. You've led fleets, outsmarted mercenaries, organized an entire hub, and yet you still act like nothing happened." One human, quiet and unassuming, had outmaneuvered fleets, protected civilians, and forced aliens across the galaxy to reconsider what they thought of humanity. And yet he acted as if it was all ordinary. She realized now that this was humanity itself, underestimated, quiet, and capable of extraordinary things when least expected. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the hub received messages from nearby systems. Alien leaders, previously skeptical of humans, now offered cooperation, trade agreements, and even alliances. They admitted their previous underestimation and expressed respect. Some asked for advice, seeking guidance from the human who had saved the hub. Others whispered about the legend they had glimpsed but could not fully comprehend. Lyra watched as Ethan responded. He answered questions without arrogance, guided discussions without insisting on authority, and offered suggestions without taking credit. And all the while, he remained calm, unassuming, and observant. Even in the midst of recognition, he did not change. He did not seek glory. He simply ensured that the hub and its people thrived. Word of his actions began spreading farther, carried by traders, diplomats, and travelers. Rumors of a quiet human who could lead, predict, and protect without weapons or threats traveled across sectors. The galaxy began to realize that humans were a species unlike any other, capable of strategy, courage, and ingenuity in ways few could anticipate. Lyra finally allowed herself to speak honestly. "Ethan, you've done something incredible, not just for this hub, but for humans everywhere. You've shown them what we are capable of. Humans survive because they adapt. They endure because they think, observe, and act when necessary. I only guided them to do what they were already capable of. Recognition is unnecessary." He answered calmly, without pride, teaching humans and aliens alike how to prepare, adapt, and think ahead. Lyra observed all of this and felt a deep sense of pride. She realized that the quiet human she had married was not only a hidden legend, but also a perfect example of the human spirit, ingenuity, calm under pressure, and the ability to inspire others without force. Humans did not need recognition to be extraordinary. They simply acted, observed, and adapted. One evening, as the hub finally settled into calm, Lyra and Ethan walked through the market. Traders cleaned stalls, children played safely, and the occasional alien visitor paused to offer thanks. People noticed Ethan, but most still saw only the quiet human trader, unaware of the incredible feats he had performed. Lyra reached for his hand. "Do you ever think about all the people out there who will hear about you?" she asked. "The fleets, the mercenaries, the alien leaders. People need to see humans as capable through their own experiences, not because I claim it. Quiet observation, careful action, and the ability to think 10 steps ahead. That is our strength." News of the hub's defense reached distant worlds. Reports described a single human who had orchestrated protection of civilians, coordinated multi-species responses, and anticipated attacks before they happened. Some leaders doubted the accounts. Others could not ignore them. And across the galaxy, the perception of humans began to shift. No longer were they seen as weak, ordinary, or insignificant. They were cunning, adaptable, and most importantly, unpredictable. Lyra felt a thrill at the thought. Humanity was finally stepping into its place in the galaxy, and the quiet human she had married had led the way. As night fell over the hub, Lyra and Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the bustling market district. Lights reflected in the glassy floors below. Children ran safely, traders moved efficiently, and aliens whispered among themselves, quietly processing what they had witnessed. "You've changed the galaxy, Ethan," Lyra said softly, "and most people won't even know it was you. What matters is that people survive, adapt, and thrive. Humans do this naturally. I only guide them. Underestimation keeps humans alive." And as they stood together, the market hub peaceful once more, Lyra understood something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was not visible on the surface. It was quiet, hidden, and underestimated, yet it could accomplish extraordinary feats when needed. And Ethan was living proof of that truth. Later in their small home, Lyra watched as Ethan reviewed messages from traders, alien delegates, and other humans. He read each carefully, noted necessary actions, and calmly prioritized what needed attention. The hub was secure, yet he worked as if the next challenge could appear at any moment. Calm, precise, prepared, always ready. Lyra sat beside him, reflecting on the past weeks. She had seen panic, chaos, and the potential for disaster. And through it all, Ethan had remained a quiet anchor, guiding, protecting, and inspiring without anyone realizing the full measure of his abilities. The galaxy would hear stories eventually. Some would call him a strategist, others a legend. Many would underestimate him at first, but those who truly understood would know the truth. Humanity was not to be overlooked. The quiet human she had married had proven that humans could survive, adapt, and lead in ways the galaxy had never expected. And Lyra knew one more thing: humanity's story had only begun. Fleets would move, threats would rise, and civilizations would challenge them. And when those challenges came, humans would face them, quietly, intelligently, and with strength the galaxy could not yet imagine. Ethan glanced at Lyra, calm as always. "The galaxy has underestimated humans for too long. That will change. Humans are always capable. I only show what is already there." Lyra understood that she had married not just a man, but a symbol, a representation of humanity's intelligence, courage, and ability to thrive under pressure. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long, and the quiet human beside her had proven that underestimation was a mistake. And as she watched him, calm and deliberate, preparing for the days ahead, she knew one thing with certainty: the legend of humans, and of the quiet human she loved, was only beginning. The stars above the hub shimmered, distant and eternal. And somewhere in their light, humanity's quiet, extraordinary strength shone as brightly as any fleet, any weapon, or any legend the galaxy had known.